Out to meeting our minds. Anybody else?
Thank you for joining us, guys.
Yes, yes. And Selden, you can take your seats or just come over, join the party. It'll be going on from 2 until 3:30. So this installment of Meeting of the Minds will be focused on mental health and millennials, mental health improvement, advancement. So it's going to be a very open discussion, so anyone feel free to raise your hand, engage, take notes in the booklets in your seats about the panel. So again, thank you for coming out, and I'm going to pass it over to our great moderator, Brenton.
What is up, everybody? How y'all doing? Happy Sunday. Yeah, we need that energy. First of all, I want to say thank you to Tideward Waves, if you would give them a hand. If you would give a hand to Everyday Go Life, as well as Zelda Market for putting this event together. It is so important that we curate and cultivate spaces like this to break the stigma around mental health. And I'm super excited. Anyway, past the introduction, I want to get to these people because they're so great, and I've done a little bit of research. Their track record is so long, so I couldn't do too much, and so I'm going to give them a chance to introduce themselves. And we'll start with Cam, and then we'll just go with Skippy, and then go to Tracy Lamoire.
Peace, everybody. Happy Self-Care Sunday. How y'all feeling? Y'all good? Right. My name is Cameron Bertrand. I'm the CEO of Violence and Prevention, VIP LLC. I'm also the founder of Buy Back the Block and Beyond the Bullet. I am a mental health counselor. I'm a youth development professional. I do a lot of social justice and advocacy work, and I'm also a gun violence survivor. So trauma-informed work is where my passion is at. Being a change, being an example, and leading by example is something that I love doing, and uplifting our people in our community and spaces where they're not able to advocate for ourselves.
Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. My name is Jasmine. Some of you guys might know me from Jimmy, know me as Jimmy. I'm the founder of Free Range Studios as well as Virgin Grooves. Event coordinator, community activist. Right now, like I said, we have a studio right across the street, Free Range Studios, where we're doing, it's basically a creative industries incubator. That's what it's turned into and cultivated into over the past year. We've had the space, and nothing is more important to me than people finding freedom for themselves, whatever that looks like, and on a day-to-day basis, in order to get there, whether it be your career or healthier relationships or lifestyles, your mental space has to be right. So I've definitely poured in a lot of my time and energy into cultivating a space that supports healthy development and brings the community together and acts as a resource for us all to have that for ourselves.
Clap it up. Happy Sunday. I'm Shanice Hernandez-Noy. I am a mental health professional and certified professional life coach. I just launched my brand here before you hustle. Well, right now we're focusing on life coaching for millennials and Gen Z, focusing on personal development, wellness, get into the bag in a healthy way. Hey everybody, my name is Tracy Lamoire. I'm the founder of Guam Initiatives. I'm a developmental strategist, and I apply psychology to help individuals, entrepreneurs, and organizations reach their vision through developing skills, thriving, and improving performance. So again, I'm applying psychology to any of your initiatives and any of the goals that you have in your life, so you have a better understanding of who you are, where you are, and where you're going.
So I'll introduce myself really quickly. My name is Brenton. Even if I ain't your boy, you know I'm still your boy. Because I feel like even if I don't know you, I know you. We're friends, we're family, and that's the kind of space that we want to cultivate today. I'm a content creator and a content strategist and an advocate for mental health. I love making sure that I'm well so I can make sure that people around me and the things around me are well. And mostly just an advocate for Black boy joy. When you see me, I want you to think joy, and I want you to think about the Black men around you. And so that's what I am, just a walking billboard for Black boy joy. And so it's such a privilege to be amongst these great pillars in the community. Like I said, I've done some work. And just researching each of you, I know Cameron personally, and again, y'all, I just want to give you one more round of applause for doing all the work that you do. Y'all don't get tired of clapping, but that's what I like to do. I like to give flowers. But it's such a privilege to be amongst all of you. And so I came up with these questions, and I wanted to get into some things. And guys, the point is to not just hear from us, but it's also to get your input and your feedback as well. Because we don't want to just hear from each other. We also want to hear from the people that we're working beside. And so feel free to raise your hand to ask any questions, to prompt any questions, any discussions that we haven't necessarily touched on, because that's the point of this. And we all have platforms that gear towards that, so ask, okay? This is an informal setting. A safe space, safe, very, very safe. We don't judge you. I'm gonna say some embarrassing things. Please don't judge me. Won't care if you do anyway, but there's my ask. But we're gonna hop into it. So life be lifing is what I like to say. For all of us, we all change so much. We all are looking for new jobs, coming out of the pandemic, trying to figure out your mental health, trying to figure out you as an individual. Let me ask you guys this. How do you know when you're burnt out? How do you know when you're starting to feel tired and you need to take a break and recalibrate?
When I'm hitting a wall, literally. With whatever I'm doing in my day, I feel like I need or I have to get something done at a particular time, and my brain just will not compute. I can't come up with the answer. I call it hitting a wall. And also when I feel the need to look to other substances to stimulate my happiness, my ability to be calm, cool. When I know I'm looking outside of myself, that's when I know I'm burnt.
I would definitely say for me, my body has always been an indicator, right? It's like that check engine light. So for those of us that are like 25 and up, I'm 31, y'all know that check engine light come on more often than not, you feel me? But at the same time, I didn't pay as much attention to my mental health before I got shot as much as I do afterwards. So a lot of times for me, and there's people sitting on this panel that are very much so like my accountability partners. They're like, Cam, sit down. Cam, take time for yourself. Cam. And although I have to listen to what they're saying, what's more important for me is to be grounded in my space and to know to listen to my body first. My body's gonna be able to guide, it's gonna be my compass, it's gonna tell me when I need to be able to rest and what space I need to pour into. So it's important for us to be mindful and to do those daily exercises. Like, what does that look like for you on a daily basis as far as self-care? How are you taking care of your mind, body, and spirit? Those are all equally important. But for me, that burnout, I always know when my body isn't cooperating, when I'm trying to push through, my pain level is high, and I can't even concentrate, and now it's triggering in different spaces, like, I know I gotta sit down and take that rest. And giving ourselves grace to do that, and being unapologetic, and knowing, hey, I gotta sit down, and I gotta sit down as long as I need. It's hard to do, we're conditioned to believe otherwise. So it's important for us to take that time for ourselves, listen to your body, it will not steer you wrong.
That was really good. And to piggyback off of that, it is the body. That's how I can tell. I hold stress in my shoulder, neck, and my head. So I found that over the years, I wasn't having these headaches. I didn't know what I was having these headaches, but it was because I was putting stress on my body. Another thing is, I know when I'm burnt out, it's when I'm mean. I'm mean to the people, my family around me. I'm very easily triggered. So that's like my biggest indicator is my attitude and how I kind of navigate with the people around me. So, yeah, thanks for sharing that. I definitely show up all of that. The body awareness. For me, I think all of those things, and then in particular, like if I'm just on automatic doing things and there's a mindlessness to it, and I'm just checking things off of my task list, and I'm doing, and there's no creativity, and there's no joy. And I'm not talking about flow, we can talk about that later, because flow is automatic too, but it's a different thing, you're very present in flow. So no presence and just doing, just tasking. And you do get kind of like edgy, and the quintessence of whatever that thing is that should be bringing you something, you're completely disassociated from that, and you're just doing stuff. So when I'm not in my creative mind and I'm not feeling any kind of sensation of joy or happiness with it, then I know I'm exhausted, and I'm just like, oh, just keep going, just keep pushing through, and it's not useful or helpful.
Thank you guys. Two things that I wanted to mention. One, my indicator is sleep. I be sleeping. I be wanting to be in the bed. Is that you? Exactly. I just be wanting to, and I don't have no problem with sleeping. It could be like 2 days straight. And that's how I know. Like, I'll just close, and then all the windows will be closed, and no light coming in. And in winter, it happens a lot for me. And so kind of just knowing when that happens is great too. The other thing that you mentioned is sometimes we start, and we don't all the time go to talk about it as young people, but using substances to help cover those spaces. That's one of my indicators. I'm not a drinker, but I will go out. I'll be like, yo, what y'all doing? And I need my friends to be like, are you okay? Because usually you just be wanting to chill and be in the house. And so that's definitely something that I want to bring up in this conversation, the use of substances. Because there's just this stigma around it that it's cool, it's not cool. I know using it, and especially, I'm gonna just talk about it, especially with like weed becoming legal in a lot of places. I'm not a person that's against it, but I am mindful of the fact that like, some of us might be using this in an unhealthy way. Yes, like, you need your meds, I'm cool with that. But also noticing like when you might be, how often, like, because there was a space in my life where I was going home on my lunch breaks. Like, and it was 20-minute drive there and 20-minute drive back. It was like, bro, you need help. Get some help. Anyway, moving forward, adulthood is really, really hard in keeping up with yourself. I always tell my friends and my family, like, you've never been here before, you've never been 30, you've never been 25, and the people around you have never been the age that they're at, right? And I don't think there's enough grace given to ourselves in regards to evolving and how much you change. What you like changes, what you're involved in changes. And so sometimes keeping up with yourself in those stages of change can be hard. How do you keep up with yourself at every level? I know at 25 for me, something just like clicked. And I was like, my life! And I had to catch back up with myself. And so I want to hear from you guys, what do you do to keep up with yourself and you constantly changing?
I'm gonna definitely have to say, first and foremost, and I love my older generation. I love my OGs. I appreciate the lane they have paid for us, but they were not transparent in this part. The transition, like, we over here thinking we supposed to be at point A, B, and C by 25. That was never realistic, and it put so much pressure on us as people, as millennials, I say. So for me, like, being transparent with the people around me and myself, like, and being like that was something for me that I had to really make a decision. And so looking at the outcome and the evidence of what I'm doing on a daily basis, like what's actually stimulating my happiness, what's actually stimulating my success, like what are the things that I want to achieve, not the things that the people want from me. Because there's a lot of guilt that comes with that. When people invest in you and when people provide certain things for you, whether that's within your family or not, you feel obligated to go and pursue certain things within adulthood that other people set for you. And that can put you on a path when you're looking back 5 years, like, dang, this wasn't even what I wanted. I'm speaking from experience. I served 4 years in the U.S. Army as a paralegal. I went pre-law and I hated it. Like, I hated it. So as an adult, I had to make a decision, like, what do I want for myself? And what am I doing to actually sustain that? Because it's going to be an ongoing process. It's going to be constant change, and that's one thing we're talking about. So being mindful again on what it is that's actually stimulating success that I want. What are the things that I'm doing on a daily basis that are actually providing and putting me in a position to get to where I want to be as an adult, and for what I want to do when I'm passing forward to the next generation. I work with kids a lot. I work with thousands of kids throughout this world. And so one thing for me is that I want to be able to pass down something tangible to every single child that I work with. That's important for me, but as an adult, I have to figure out what that looks like for me, so I'm not passing down anything that's toxic or anything that's not going to be conducive to what they're trying to do. So that's important for me as an adult. I have to continue to monitor, okay, is this outcome and the evidence there for what I'm trying to do, and is it righteous to what I want to do?
Okay, so for me, it was the taking care of myself part. I had to learn myself. So I had to learn, just like I said, where I hold the stress in my body, what substances I would use to kind of cope with what was going on. And then I had to implement healthy boundaries on myself. If I smoke, okay, do it in the morning, bite, go through your day, don't drag this out through the day. If I feel that my body is tensing up, I need to schedule a massage. I need to get that out. But also learning what you do and what you don't like. For me, our age, everybody wants to go out and party and, be social, but that's training. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a landlord. Now I have my own company, so I have a lot of things going on, and I can't always hang out. I can't always be on the scene. Understanding, getting back to like my roots, one thing that I picked up was gardening. As a kid, I used to love playing in the dirt. I don't know why, it was just my thing. My friends joke me about this now. They're like, y'all always want to play in the dirt? It's called gardening. This is what I do to have quiet time for myself and really reflect on either the day I'm about to have or the day that I had. How I can be better, what I did good. Just really processing everything that's going on and really being present during that time. So those are just some of the ways I take care of myself. So I have some kale on right now. I have some onions. I have some green onions. I have some lettuce. So my kale is actually, they're flowering. So I'm going to be able to harvest the seeds pretty soon. So yeah, just nothing big. This is just my second year doing it. So yeah. They're the ground, yeah. So yeah.
Y'all see how excited she was with the black cat?
I got no questions about abortion stuff.
She's 100% on point, because as you all can tell, I am not any other adult. I passed that phase, so thank you. You can get through it, you will develop through it, I promise. That is the key, you have to keep moving, number one. Number two, you have to have self-awareness. And there's so much noise, and y'all live in the most technologically advanced time in human history. So there's so many things pulling on you, so many distractions. So just learning to become disciplined enough to sit, not by yourself, but with yourself, and listen to your own voice. And your voice will tell you, and it'll start to resonate. I don't want to go to this, or I do want to go to this. I want to garden. I don't want to garden. I don't want to have kids. I want to start my own business. I don't want to buy a house because I don't want the responsibility that comes with the house. I don't want to get married because I don't want the responsibilities that come with a long-term relationship, underneath one of these. Maybe we just partner up for the rest of our lives. You have to listen to yourself and be realistic about what you really, really believe in wholeheartedly. And you can't hear that when you're running around. And let me just give you a tip. Even in my season of life, there's still learning and self-awareness and development and setting healthy boundaries. So the journey keeps going if you keep having birthdays. Until you stop having birthdays, you're still going to be learning in life. But you have to learn who you are, what you stand for, and how to set those healthy boundaries for yourself. And that means with the people that you love. That means with society, that means with partners. You gotta figure out how much space you take up. and where other people's space overlaps with you. So.
I have so many answers for this. So many. Definitely being open to trying new techniques and new ways to get to this space. Most recently, this week, I started asking myself every morning, what do I love? What do I love? What do I love? I love helping people. I love making people feel comfortable. I love making people feel taken care of. I love making people feel calm, feel like free. That's what I love. So when you do this at the beginning of your day, the rest of your day, it just moves so seamlessly with ease, because every opportunity that I see to help someone, I'm like, okay, this is my move. I help this person. And that takes instantly the anxiety of, oh, I gotta hurry up and do this, I gotta hurry up and do that, because this is a person who you feel like you wanna give something to. So I will make time for that. And like Tracy was saying, it's finding out what you really believe in, but it's really very simple. It's taking that time at the beginning of the day before you take anything in from any outside sources to just be with yourself and what really matters to you.
Okay, so another thing that I do is I unplug from social media. You have to unplug from social media. Like, you're scrolling all day. I don't think people realize how much time they actually spend on their phone, not just with checking emails or texting their family or loved ones back, but you may have an account on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You done spent 8 hours of your day. You could have been doing something productive or feeding, your soul and really healing and getting yourself to be able to piggyback off of Jasmine. You have to be in a healthy space to actually be able to identify those indicators of when you can kind of jump in and help with other people. So, yeah.
Ask yourself that like maybe 4 or 5 times a day. Again, it brings you back into the present. You want to sit down, you want to have that bathroom, you want to do something, you want to
So sorry. I said, ask yourself 4 or 5 times a day what you need. And so that's the next step from what do I love? So what do I love sets the intention for the day. And then what do I need brings you back to that intention all day long.
Thank you guys. Did anyone else have anything to add from, we would love to hear from you. Side note, I want to add something while you're thinking of your question. But please join us in the conversation. One of the things that you guys mentioned is making sure you're healthy to be able to even come to a place where you're like, okay, what do you need, right? But where are my people pleasers in the building? Who are my people that want to be liked? Okay? So, for us, there's a level of, I was trying to be polite about it. There's a level of, you gotta let that go in order to make sure you're good. And so one of the things that I had to do in order to get to that healthy space is I had to drown out what everyone else thought and focus in on what I thought, because I realized that my mission and my vision, if those things would never come to fruition unless I was around. And unless I was healthy enough, or like you said, nice enough to be able to relay the information that I really need to get done, right? And so my question for you guys is, there's a bit of selfishness that has to come with getting healthy. How do you, and I see it with a lot of my friends have kids already. I'm 30, so I'm like, bump them kids, girl. But I see that guilt sit on them so heavy so much so that they can't even do the simple things. I know you mentioned you're a mom, so I want to push it to you first, but I see the guilt, and especially with Black mothers, I'm just gonna say it, it's just kind of like, you don't wanna do nothing for yourself. And so how did you push past that space of feeling selfish in order to take care of your temple and to take care of you so that things around you can feel better?
Well, honestly, I watched my mother give herself to everyone else and never put into herself. And so for me, I had a front row seat before I was even a mother. When I had my daughter, I was working. It put me in a survival mode. I was working like 40, 50 hours a week, every week, just so that I can have extra money to still keep up with what I want to have, and make sure that I'm setting the foundation for my future. I mean, the hustle is needed in the beginning, but I didn't want to be emotionally absent from it. And so I had to reflect on my life and look at everything that I was missing. And not to say that my mother was a bad mother, but she was busy. She was out here hustling. Like, she wouldn't be as successful as she is if she was at home with us. So I think we don't give enough grace to our parents and the people that did it before us. They just didn't have the tools to be able to say, okay, I need to sit down, I need to take a break. It's okay that I only have one job, and kind of live within your means and not to keep up with everybody. So that's what, me having my daughter was like, okay, I'm not gonna repeat this cycle that I've seen my mother, my grandmother, her grandmother. So I was just like, I'm gonna break this cut. So yeah.
To add to that, it's funny you say that, because one of the things that I'm not gonna say resent, but one of the things that I wish would have went better when it came to my parents, and it's the only thing, because I know, like you said, they didn't have the tools, but it's that they don't give enough to themselves. And when you give more to yourselves, guys, you don't have to feel selfish about taking that space. And if it's anything you hear from me, hear this today. Take the space that you need, pause. Nothing else around you will go well and in the way that you want it to go unless you really, really love on yourself. And I can't tell you how long that will take. I wish I could tell you like, oh, take 6 months, you'll be good. It might take a year and a half.
It's ongoing.
It's ongoing, exactly.
It's like, you can read a million books, you can retain all the information, but you have to live life in order to experience the downs. And you have to experience the downs to learn. So yeah.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to add something to the conversation.
Absolutely.
I know for me, it's knowing what your narrative is, like who you are up until this point, and like just backtrack and see, okay, I've done this, I do this in my life, here I am now, where do I want to go going forward? And then letting others kind of know, what you're being transparent about what you're dealing with in your life, and letting those, especially those close to you, have that understanding so they can have that empathy for what you might be going through. And I know for me, my narrative is, I'm 36. I just turned 36. I'm a personal trainer. I'm actually working on getting my life coaching and stuff right now.
Congratulations.
Yeah, massive. So, personal training, group training, and to me, physical health is a big part of who I am, and it's my core. So, understanding like what my core is and my core values, understanding what wellness might mean to me, really helps me kind of organize where I'm going and how I am, especially because I'm neurodivergent, so I have that. You know what I'm talking about. Like,
me too.
Yeah, I just have that. I have ADHD, so I'm all over the place at times. And then understanding like how that might affect me in my everyday life, and having the coping skills to see my way through it. Because the book's already been written, I just gotta read it.
Thank you for that, brother.
Yeah, no worries.
To y'all, really quickly, what are you doing to ensure, or what did you do to be like, it's okay to be selfish in this moment in order to take care of myself, to ensure that things around me get taken care of? Does that make sense? I know I'll be rambling.
What time is it? Oh, 3:30. Just too
Man, I would have to say it's been something that I guess we've been kind of talking around it today, but we haven't really said it. But like therapy, right? Like we have to heal to be able to understand the capacity that we deserve, right? So some of what we talked about today, like I've been a licensed mental health professional for over 4 years now, and the things that I've learned by doing this work, and I got into it because I was just tired of seeing my youngest, my kids, they're going through things that I can't even describe to y'all right now. The war zones that they walking through, the trenches they're growing up in is crazy, right? But ACEs, we talk about this in the mental health, adverse childhood experiences. This plays a huge fact in our adulthood and how we operate, how we think, how we even see this world. And I'm a sociologist, so as a social scientist, I always believe that we learn through interaction. And that everything that we do was at some point an interaction that we had that we internalized. So I argue a lot with psychologists because I'm like, nah, we ain't going to believe in nothing. But I do understand that trauma can have a huge impact on our chemical imbalance and so much more. Our health, trauma, like chronic conditions, is crazy. It changes it, and it's embedded in our DNA for at least 7 generations. This ain't about us. This ain't about us. I'm doing this work because I don't want the future generations and the generations to come to have to experience what my ancestors experienced. We one of the first generations removed from what our ancestors went through. So what we're doing and the generational trauma that we're breaking is so much bigger. So I had to really start, when I started going to therapy, it wasn't for myself, it was because I got shot. And I was in the Army for 4 years. Like PTSD is like common knowledge in the military. If you're around a gunfight, you're gonna go to counseling, you're gonna go to therapy. It's important because they don't want you to come home and spaz out. But the things that we're experiencing and going through every single day, you can open your phone and see some violence. We talked about that, right? So it's like, you have to realize that urban traumatic stress disorder, these are things that we're being exposed to just leaving our homes. So, or not, Breonna Taylor, rest in peace. And I went to those spaces, I went to Louisville, and I created grief programs to counsel Breonna Taylor's family and families across the state of Virginia, and I go on and on and on. But the work I started doing made me realize, like, I can't be doing all this for thousands of people, and I ain't doing an ounce of it for myself. Like, I can't sustain this. And the best thing that I can do is make sure that I equip people with everything that I've learned on this journey. So that God forbid, if I am gone, that they know that they still can go on with the healing, right? So for me, I had to really realize, like, to be selfish, I had to heal first, because it's easier said than done. Like, we got good hearts. You sit in this room, you care. So that means it's not just that easy just to focus on yourself. We have to learn what that even looks like. And it's gonna take time. Every person in this room, for the years that you've been on earth, just imagine that you're trying to undo the work and the mindset you've been conditioned to believe your entire life. Give yourself grace and know that's gonna take time, a lot of it. But every day that you get up and do it is a victory. That's a dub. Every day that you get up and do it, that's a win. Don't let nobody tell you no different. Because there's people yet that have not started that journey. And so being trauma informed is knowing that the healing journey that we're doing, other people may not be at that point. We have to have a sense of understanding that trauma is different for everyone. Every single person. So if you are serious about this journey, just know that there may not be people who ever empathize with what you're going through. But that journey is for them, it's for us. And it's for us to show people, like, this is how we take those steps. And that's how we actually create change, by healing the mindset. Because some of the things that's going on right now in the world, we cannot control. We never will be able to. But the mindset and where it starts, that's where it begins. And that's also where it ends. We can change that. So for me, that's when I had to really start going. And I'm still on that journey. I'm still trying to find my perfect therapy, right? But I'm still doing it. I know that it's important. I can't do the trauma work if I'm not getting the healing that I deserve. And that's how I'm learning to be selfish for myself.
take it from my personal angle. Definite reformed people pleaser. Still high achiever, I'll say. But I have two adult sons that I raised, and a different business that I helped my husband build for 17 years. And so for a long time, what I loved got pushed to the side. Not that I didn't love my sons, not that I didn't love my husband, and that I didn't love that passion pursuit that we were, engaged in, and that's what I like to call them. But it was never my vision. So my vision is academia, and I get to share with you guys, so I'm gonna brag for myself, and I normally don't do this, but I'm doing it because it's starting to feel real. I'm going up to Harvard in 2 days, and I'm graduating with my master's in clinical psych from Harvard on Thursday. So, thank you. So, it's hard to set boundaries and know that you get to have a dream and that you get to choose things and you can decide for yourself, because we've all been conditioned in this society, subliminally and not subliminally, to believe that we want certain things, believe that we have to have certain things, believe that we have to look a certain way, that we have to show up in the world a certain way, that we have to talk a certain way, all of these litany of things that all this information that's pumped at us that tells us we gotta be, but you can only be you. And only you can show up as you. Nobody else can do you. So, like he's saying, you have to be able to start to deprogram some of that stuff. But it's gonna take individual work, and it also takes societal work. But societies are made up of human beings. So we all have to do our work to change that mindset and to change those images. And so our generations of kids will be much more conscious than the generations behind us, because, they just didn't know. They didn't have the luxury. They didn't have the opportunity. They didn't have the resources. They didn't have the support. But we can change that because we're living in different times. So I've taught my kids to understand boundaries, even as young men. Like, listen, you can't let the world take everything out of you. And at 22, you're not gonna have it all figured out. You're not supposed to have it all figured out at 22. You're supposed to start trying to figure it out in your 20s, but you're not gonna have it all figured out. And it's okay to go through. So, that's been, I can say that I put some of my stuff to the side. And I wasn't selfish I'm 48. So for the majority of my life, I have not been selfish. But I'm in a selfish mode now. Or a self-love mode.
I became selfish when I started paying attention to how I felt. So being a people pleaser or not getting that acknowledgement or gratification or love from home, from a parent, you go out into the world seeking it from everybody or trying to prove yourself in every capacity that you're at. Your job, Bible club, friend group, throwing parties, whatever. You're trying to prove that you can really show up. And when you go through so many instances where you are completely just demolished, or just you feel embarrassed, or you feel lost, or you really paying attention to how I felt, giving so much of myself, trying to prove so much of myself. So then really taking the time when God gave it to me to not focus on everything, but just one thing, taking that time to really reflect on how things made me feel. Being real with myself, looking at myself in the mirror and being like, you was doing it. Like, you was trying it. You was moving too fast. And if you would have just been moving a little slower instead of reacting, you would have reflect first. You reflect before you react, then you might not have put yourself in that situation. So I really had to pay attention to how I felt and take accountability for that. It's not somebody else's fault that I ended up in this situation. It wasn't what somebody didn't give me, so I felt like I had to go out and get it, so this is the reason why. No, So like, I went through a lot of hard times as far as, I wouldn't even call it a failure, just like moments where I felt alone and I had to be to myself, by myself, with myself, and really be with myself. And just slow down. Just slow down.
Anyone? Yeah, definitely clap it up. Thank you. Okay, this is a little improv too, but everyone stand up really quickly. Y'all gonna repeat after me, and then we gonna hop back into it, okay? Cause if I sit down for too long, I'm gonna be exited, but still here. Okay, say I'm enough.
I'm enough.
No, I'm enough.
I'm enough.
Touch your chest and say I'm enough.
I'm enough.
Anything I do will be good. Anything I do will be good. Anything I touch will be successful. I am genuine. I am loving. I am patient. I am kind. Anything I put out into the world, I will receive back. I love myself. I love my people. And I love what I do. Okay, y'all can have a seat. Okay, yeah, exactly. I needed to get that out there really quickly. Yeah, it's like that is what I needed. Yes, sir.
I love the fact that you all have touched on the emotional, physical, spiritual aspect of this, and even getting finally to kind of, finding that place for yourself to grow with the setback and rest. Getting to the self-love part of it, though, how do you protect your own self-love so that the energy that is being active isn't necessarily pulling you back, bringing you down, but understanding that you're speaking to your space, and that in that self-love, growing mentality right there, that it's okay to build something that says nothing's going to harm me in this mode that I can or where I'm at, so that I can move forward to the life after that. But how do you protect your own self-love?
Slowing down. I want to say something. I think there's a stigma or a negative thing that kind of goes with speaking to yourself or talking to yourself. We have to talk to ourselves a lot. And within that, speaking to yourself, that's just processing. So it goes back to figuring out what your triggers are first, so that you can know what type of people you need to be around, what type of people you may not need to be around. Understanding what triggers you so that in that moment you can notice, okay, my mood just shifted from I was cool, calm, and collected to now I'm irritated. Why am I irritated? Why did that irritate me? And then not reacting. So it kind of goes all together, but the first part is to understand your boundaries and figure out what your triggers are so that you can know when to react or when not to react. And kind of self-love is being able to brush off the things that you don't need to focus on. So someone may be mean to you, that doesn't have anything to do with you. That's them, and that's what they're carrying, that's how they're trying to project it on you. That doesn't have anything to do with you. So kind of going back to understanding your triggers and your boundaries, and then from there it'll be easier to not react or engage with people you may not need to.
It's protecting your peace. So when you are in your body and you feel at ease and you're present, you know what changes that energy like she's talking about. It could be it could be a spouse, it could be a child, it could be something that you listen to on the radio or the TV, it could be a perfect stranger, trying to bump into you while you're walking down the street. Like there's always disagreeable forces trying to take you out of your center. And so, especially there's a lot going on out here with us. We're gonna pray for our fellow humans and protect your peace. So what I'm saying is, we know when we feel right. When you feel good, you just feel, and then when things are poking at you, and then your neck starts to get tight, or your jaw starts to tighten up because you want to say something, but you don't say it because you don't want to engage. So that awareness, that self-awareness, that emotional IQ that she's talking about, when you recognize, oh, somebody's trying to pull me out of balance, then you can evaluate, is that a relationship that I need to reevaluate? Is it, I need to establish new boundaries in that relationship? If it's somebody out on the roads and you're driving, and there's a whole lot of aggression out here, people are not in their well minds right now, they're not. We are not. So we have to really, really be intentional about protecting that peace. Like she said, do I react? Do I engage? Or do I let it pass? You can notice things without reacting to them. You can acknowledge things without engaging with them. That's how you protect this new space and this new strength and this new peace that you're starting to develop and grow inside of you. And it takes on its own life. And as you get that and you start to breathe, then you really will become very covetous of that peace. And you will not allow people to come in and deflect you from that. Nobody's perfect. We can slide out of that. But getting back into your body, then you're able to make really, really informed choices. And that's your emotional IQ. And we all, humanity, has to work on that emotional IQ piece because we're not in a good place right now. So I'm calling all of us to do our work.
Don't react, reflect. That's what I think about all day. Another thing that I tried this week was noting. Has anybody heard of noting? I've heard it through like guided meditation, a very calm meditation, but so in the guided meditation, you would note breathing when you're breathing. So this week, as I was doing things, I would think of something I wanted to do. I would start doing it, but I'd say, washing hands. So I'd be washing my hands. So I could catch up with my brain, could catch up with my body in a way. So I couldn't really move on to the next thing unless I said it. Noting, drying my hands. So I gotta reach to dry my hands. And I'm already thinking about the next thing I wanna do. But I can't get there yet because I'm drying my hands still. Noting, and that brought me down to more of a calm space where I'm not so frantic because I throw myself all out of whack doing so much. I'm 10 steps ahead of myself at all times. So that's slowing down and creating space for that. So how can we create time to listen to people? We have to have time for ourselves. So getting up a little earlier so you can have that time for yourself will make all the difference. Because you'll go through your thoughts, your wants, your woes, your regrounding before you hit the door. If you just get up and fly out the door, everything's gonna get on your nerves because you don't have your mind together. So getting up a little earlier makes all the difference because you have to create that time for yourself.
Be who you needed when you were young. Be who you needed when you were young. Like, I feel like we were our most pure at the beginning and the end of our lives. Like, everything in between is just practice. So, I say that to say, for me, like, I never got to see, as a young black man, I never got to see, like, self-love from other black men. Like, my pops is a provider and protector. Like, that's what I saw him as, you know what I'm saying? My mom, love and strength, resilience. Like, so even for me, like, seeing my pops now, like, and knowing that, of course he loves me, right? But what does self-love look like coming from a black man? So I had to figure out what that even looked like for me, and not even just as a black man, but as a man, period. We are raised to and conditioned to believe that certain emotions we just don't display. It makes you weak. And it's real, like, and unfortunately, if you're too happy or if you are in a certain space, it almost makes you a target at times, right? Where it's like, nah, he think he better than us. He think he too righteous, blah, blah, blah. But leaning back into that self-love is again knowing that we deserve everything that we set out for ourselves. It doesn't make us better than anybody else, but if it puts you in that vibration, then so be it. But self-love is absolutely focusing inward and really realizing again, like, there's gonna be things that self-love for me is gonna make me a better person for the people in my life. I want to be a better person. I want to be a better friend. I want to be a better brother. I want to be a better son. But I want to be a better me first. I deserve that. I deserve that, and it took too long. I almost lost my life for me to have to realize, like, I need to love on myself then. That's crazy. Or to feel like I didn't deserve love because when I got shot, people left me on the ground. Saw me laying there. Like, that will take you to a mindset where you're like, I don't even deserve to be here. But snapping back out of that reality and realizing that I was absolutely kept here for a reason, that I deserve to love on myself more than I do, but I have to put myself in position and allow the people in my life to pour into me as well so that I can do what I need to do. Like, I've made a decision in my life to commit to service. That's what I am. I'm a public servant everywhere I go. Like, I represent that's my Instagram name is Mind of the Billion because I represent the masses. Everywhere I go, I'm going to do what I can to uplift and advocate. But somewhere down that line, I started like realizing like I don't know what that looks like for me. Like, Brandon is one of my best friends. Like, we went to high school together. You know what I'm saying? Like, he is a staple and a move for what Black Boy Joy represents. But the unfortunate side was like, this shouldn't be something that became popping or a trend just because we made it look cool. We did deserve that. So self-love is not just for men or not just for women. Like, as a human, what does that look like for us? And sticking to that. And knowing that you do deserve that and knowing that it's going to take steps to really get to that point. But self-love and self-care, they go hand in hand, but they are separate. Like, pouring into ourselves and knowing like that's going to be something that we're going to decide and pass forward. So protect that. And know that unfortunately it does make us a target to the wrong people, but it makes us a blessing to the right people.
Anyone else have anything to that? Yes, sir.
I know I keep.
Oh, bro, yeah.
All right. There's a couple things that you kind of said that made me think of a conference I went to one year. And one of the guest speakers talked about how throughout history, humanity has these dips. Technology continues to go, upward and onward. However, the human spirit, or I guess the society itself has these dips where you have the golden ages or bronze age, and then the philosophical ages, and then we go down to like World War II, where humanity takes a dive, and then we go back up with civil rights movements and things like that, and we take dips throughout history. And just realizing how society kind of impacts you as a person, especially where you live and your environment, has a lot to do with and having the emotional intelligence to figure that out, saying this is what might be stimulating this mood that I'm in. This might have that external effect on me to change who I am as a person, and being able to kind of know when to recognize that and fight that off. So that was like that made me just kind of reflect on it.
Yeah, absolutely. This should be a dialogue. And I think everybody on the panel for sure understands that we've got emotional factors, we've got environmental factors, and we have genetic factors that are heritable. So some of the stuff that we're dealing with, and I reject the term mental health, and I'm just going to say that because that's what this is, but because I think it already has enough stigma as it is, I embrace the term psychological health and well-being because everybody can relate to that because we all have a brain. And we all experience this world through science, through our physical bodies, biology, our brain, and our emotions and our cognition. So to me, psychological health and wellness and well-being is more apropos and precise and accurate than mental health. So I'm glad you brought that up. But yeah, we do have this, societal evolution of consciousness, right? And so there are infrastructures built in to prioritize certain things, but that doesn't mean as individuals, we don't have the right to choose to prioritize other things, right? So us doing things like this and improving awareness, which is one of the missions of my brand, but also personal missions, like we all need to understand that we have to experience this world. And so how can we do that as our higher selves? How can we help each other? How can we support each other? How can we bring, the creative missions and passions that we were born with out into the world? Because that's what we're here to do. It's not just wash, rinse, repeat, work, sleep, repeat. That's not what humanity is about. That's not what we're supposed to be here for.
You mentioned how you protect that self-love, that peace. Transparency moment, when you go on that journey of self-love, you lose people. And being honest about the fact that those people aren't a part of the journey.
Say that again.
Those people ain't a part of the journey, okay? Get them out. They're not, unfortunately, and there are some people that as you go on this journey, they're gonna have a hard time adjusting. Because it's like, depending on where you come from, we are people pleasers. We like to say that we're not, but our families pulling at us 8 different spaces, like being pillars in the community, like people are pulling at you and expecting certain things from you, and realizing that, some people just not gonna fit into this puzzle. And being cool with that. That doesn't make me arrogant. That doesn't make me somebody who doesn't care about people or better, right? I would do that where people be like, who does he think he is? And a lot of people, I'm sure y'all have experienced this too, when you go on that journey, they perceive you wrong. And it's like, unfortunately, I can't help you because if you're really on that journey, you would understand. But y'all and then you be looking, exactly. I'm like, I want to know what you got, since you got time to come over here and figure out what I got going on. Like, let me know. And so, y'all, you're gonna lose people along the journey. That's okay. That's why there are spaces like this, people like this. And I know my DMs are always open. I know y'all. I'm gonna just say it. Y'all messages are always open. Not because we want to talk at you or talk to you, but really because we get it. Because we're right there with you. Which pivots me to my next point of knowing when you need help. Cameron touched on it a little bit, but therapy, the topic of therapy, y'all. I love it. If you need a Black man therapist, let me know. I'll message you. I love sending therapist resources. Even if you don't, people I ain't got insurance. It's so many resources out there. I'm not taking that. There's Medicaid. There's so many resources that you can utilize to get therapy, y'all. I've been going for about 2 years now. My therapist's name is Malcolm Bernard. I love him. I talk to him once a month. It was bi-weekly. But I want to talk about digesting the concept of therapy. And when I went on that journey, y'all, it was so hard. One, because I was talking to my family about it. I come from your normal traditional Black family, what goes on in this house stays in this house. You're like, what you need therapy for? What you got going on when you gotta bring somebody else? And I'm like, benefits. That's what I got. And you can have them too. Yeah, but talking to my grandparents, like you said, talking to my father about it, him not really saying nothing, him just being like, because I'm talking about you. But no, it's not about other people, y'all. It's about getting the help you deserve. And when I went on that journey to finding a therapist, I went through 4 people. Because a lot of the men that I would come across in this, I just didn't want to be them. I didn't want to talk to them, right? So it's hard, hard wanting to be honest with somebody. But the thing that got me through that process is not saying you need help, but bro, you deserve help. And there is a level of get out of your own way. I'm looking at each of you in your face for this part. there's a level of get out of your own way that has to happen before you even get what you deserve. Because when I realized that I deserved that help, there was a openness and a vulnerability that allowed me to receive what I was looking for. And until you unclench your fist, you think you holding on to something that has been, and that's normal, right? Like, whatever it is, whatever feels safe, you hold on to it so tight and you never want to open the hand up to let it go, but you think you're letting something go, but you're opening your hand up to receive more back. And so there, it's just a level of get out of your own way that has to happen before you take on that journey. And so I want to ask y'all, how did you digest the concept of being like, I deserve help? Because people will be like, you need help. That sounds, there's like a negative stigma associated to it. I was talking to a family member, and this family member struggles, and we'll talk about those. They struggle with alcoholism. And they were, and so I had to say, like, I can't help you. Like, I had to repeat it like 5 times. They're like, you can't help yourself. And I'm like, duh, that's why I'm getting therapy. But there's a level of, anyway, moving on. What are you guys doing? And what did you do to digest the concept of therapy and actually receive the help that you deserve?
Well, I definitely I got like 2 lenses on it now because I'm in therapy, but I'm also a therapist, so it's like, I be trying to I remember the last therapist I had that had to really get out of my own way and just take the meat and leave the bones. So what that means is take what you can from each of these interactions and just leave the rest. You feel me? So for me, I've been on this search for a black male therapist, right? One that I can identify with, and I'm starting to figure out, is that even what I actually need, or whatever the case may be. So I've been very flexible. So I would say therapy for me, taking that step was realizing that the things that we experience, they're not normal. We normalize it, but I'm not trying to live my life being angry. You feel me? There's things that I just had to go. I'm like, there's no other option but therapy. The police never caught the person who shot me. Every time I go to Norfolk, I can walk outside and see dude. And I gotta do what? You feel me? So healing was mandatory. I'm having night terrors. So every day, and it's crazy, and I'm very transparent. People know I get up till 4 a.m. every day. People don't know why. Because I was having these night terrors every day at 3:38. 3:38, I was having this night terror where I'm sleeping and I see them and I shoot. I can feel every bullet. That's what I'm gonna tell you how powerful our minds are, because I'm gonna tell you when I got shot, man, it ain't nothing hotter. It's hot as hell outside. But them bullets are hot. That's why I tell my kids that I work with, yo, this ain't nothing to play with. I was in the Army for 4 years. I thought I was convinced that I knew what it felt like to get shot until I got hit. Nah. And so in those night terrors, I'm having this same dream. And what I realized is that I'm so angry to the point that I might make a mistake if I leave this crib. So I was in the crib, running. So therapy for me was I need to heal for myself. I got too much to lose. I got too much to live for. And to give anybody that power, it's not worth it. It's not. So I had to start going to therapy to start finding healing for myself. And the minute I started that journey was the minute that the night terrors started going away. And it was just it was some wicked, evil, mindset that I had that I knew that I was capable of doing it. And my mind was letting me know, we know you're capable of doing it. But this is gonna be, God's gonna hurt you more than it's gonna hurt them. I'm damn, so for me, I had to start going to therapy. I'm okay, it's almost like school. Your therapist may not be the best one for you, right? You got teachers, you go to school all the time and everybody take the same class. They be yo, this young lit, but you got this other teacher who ain't it. it's the same topic, but at the same time, it's a method to the madness. So for me, I have to be also very flexible and like zoom out. So the therapy that we do, like when I look like Ashley, she's back there. We have created a whole grief program. We, like you said, mental health has a negative stigma, and so does therapy. So we created a program called Grief Support. Jasmine is a part of that as a life coach. So we're like, okay, we understand that therapy is different for everyone. And I want people to know that. Please understand that. That therapy is going to be about what works for you. It's going to be a journey that you're going to have to go through. You're going to have to continue to amend it and mandate it and hire and fire accordingly, but do it. It's worth it. Because everything that I did, going to therapy and taking that step, kept me from making a huge decision that would have changed my life again. So do it for yourself and nobody else, but therapy, like, is worth it. Invest in yourself, and it's about your mental wealth. It's not even mental health. Your mindset is how you provide for yourself.
Thank you for sharing him. Yeah, I mean, I think it's, you touched upon something really important. Our brains and our minds are so powerful, and they can trick us, you know, especially when we're in fear. You know, fear is such a powerful motivator, and that is built into the DNA so we can protect ourselves. So it's natural, but it can go off the rails. So fear and trauma, those two are the main reasons we need to put ourselves in therapy or get somebody to help us explore, because we end up trapping ourselves, you know, whether it's consciously or unconsciously. And so the first time that I went to a therapist, I felt that I guess I was going into a depression, but at that time I don't think I knew what that was. But my father died very, very unexpectedly when I was a freshman in college. And I found that I couldn't get up out of the bed until like 7 o'clock at night. And I wasn't going to classes, and I wasn't eating, and I was just laying in the bed looking out the window. And it wasn't suicidal ideation to the extent that I wanted to hurt myself, but it was, if I didn't wake up tomorrow, I would be okay with that. And so after about, I don't know, 7 weeks of that, the semester was way, way far ahead. And I was like, okay, this isn't good. I probably need to go talk to somebody. So when I went and talked to the student psychologist at the school, he was like, honey, you're depressed. You're in depression. So I want you to take something. And so it's real, that brain chemistry from trauma, it takes you out of your mind. And so it's important to identify it early, particularly with depression. And for me, I likened it to being in like a tunnel. And I could see myself sinking down into the tunnel, and the light was getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And it wasn't the guy that I talked to that was so helpful, although it did give me some perspective. And he helped me understand that it was triggered by the trauma. I probably only took the meds for about 2 weeks. And I was able to I almost visualized myself throwing my hands and feet out in the tunnel so I wouldn't fall any further. And I wasn't able to crawl out quickly, but I also was able to stop the fall, the descent. And so there is a place for traditional psychotherapy. There is nothing wrong with it. Cameron is right, you gotta find somebody that you trust and that you have synergy with so you can get yourself back to baseline. You know, especially if you think you might be clinical, it's important. This is the DSM-5, this is what practitioners use. So it's not just out here, oh, I think I'm depressed, or oh, I think I have anxiety, or I have an eating disorder. No, there's criteria, specific criteria. If somebody has given you a diagnosis, or you think you might have a diagnosis, go to a professional and get evaluated. And so there's, it's not made up. People spend a lot of time, and weeks, revising this, and so it's a real thing. It's not things that are made up. But yeah, so I think there's a place for traditional psychotherapy. There's a reason that it's out there for all of us and that it's available. There are good practitioners, there are not so good practitioners, and it's important to find somebody that you trust so you can get to that place where you can set yourself free. because we don't have to suffer and be trapped. You know, and I always like to tell people, look, we live in America where we have resources, so please, you know, because there's plenty of places in the world that don't have what we have available to them. So there's no reason not to take advantage of it. So yeah.
So I want to know, anybody can answer this, like, so what was your first session like? How did you overcome maybe not being able to go back?
I looked at that man for 40 minutes, 45 minutes. It took actually a few sessions for me to get comfortable with him. Because one, you ain't telling nobody your business just like that, you know? And so it was hard, but there was a level of, you deserve the help, get over yourself to actually get the help. That I had to, it was a fight, it was an internal fight, I'll be honest, that I had to go through. And there's a level of, like you said, of finally like stopping yourself from the fall. And like you, I was, yeah, it's a choice. And I'm not gonna say that it's easy, it's hard. Like some people mentioned, I know people who went through 4 and 5 therapists. I call like 10 to 20 people. So they don't even talk to you about that. They're just like, go get a therapist. They don't talk to you about how it's like looking for a job, right? It's hard, it's draining. I remember after the 10th therapist, I cried because I was like, you don't, are you actually gonna get the help that you deserve? And so it just don't start. It just doesn't stop with finding a therapist. It's a like somebody mentioned, it's a continued journey. In my first experience with him, it was cool, but even in that, I had to get to know him. I had to allow him to want to get to know me.
Build the rapport.
Yeah.
The first time you were with someone who was a professional, was it difficult for you to even find the language to get it out?
No, because I'm a talker. So I would drop it on you, but the hard part probably was opening myself up enough to let it, because I always know what I want to say. We're very, very aware people, I think. But feeling comfortable enough to say it. I always got the words. I know exactly what I need to say to you. But I still gotta think about how I need to say it, like unlearning that what I'm saying is not crazy, you know, right, impulsive. You know, they'll say like, oh, these millennials, they're just lazy, like all these things that you have to unlearn. And so I had the words. It was just me getting over myself enough to be like, get over my pride. Especially with black men, we don't want to lower. I won't even say want to lower ourselves. That's not the case, because I found that a lot of us are. We can't. You can't. You're putting yourself out there enough to know that what you're putting out, you'll receive back. And so that's all it is. And so my experience was.
No, I just think sometimes, I know, well, for me, the first time I went, like I said, was because of the trauma of losing my dad. And I knew I was in pain, but I think it was hard for me to like verbalize it. And I'm a talker too, but my brain had shut down so much and the grief was so crushing that I couldn't say it. And I wonder if young people have challenges articulating what they're feeling, especially like young boys. I think young girls can do it. I think young boys, 13, 14, 15, they can tap into the rage. They can tap into their frustration, but I think it may be hard sometimes. Anybody relate? It's hard for little boys to like give that feeling a voice, especially out loud to anybody. But I think therapy can help that because it helps you have the vocabulary, so it doesn't just show up as despair and anger and rage. It helps them learn other emotions on the emotional scale, because you're human, like you have all of those emotions.
Even as young black men, that's what we're told. Like, when you acting out or when you're upset, like, that's all we ever hear. And it starts early in the 3rd and 4th grade. Like, they're stigmatizing and labeling us. And that's what we're taught to believe. So even like the first time going to therapy, like, I had a white female therapist. It just wasn't a good click. Like, I felt like when I was telling her some of the things I was going through, she was just so amazed. And so as she was listening, facts, I'm like, this is not a BT movie. Like, I'm trying to tell you life here. Like, this is, you know what I'm saying? She was so amazed. And so when she found out that, and she was like, oh, I've heard your name. And then I guess she looked me up and saw that I was doing work in the community. And so she automatically put me in a space where it's like, oh, you're strong enough to do X, Y, and Z. So let's just focus on this. And I was like, nah, that's not what I, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what I need, but I know I don't feel strong right now. Like, I don't. So that was something for me. Like, my first session, it was trash. It took me a year to try again. A year. And then I got fired from my full-time job. So I ended up becoming self-employed. So I'm like, I can't even get a therapist without insurance. And then so that first time is definitely, I know they say first impressions last, but with therapy, you kind of got to be a little bit more flexible. Just know that first impression might not be the one. Like you said, the first 10 might not be the one. But things are changing. I'll tell you that. Things are changing even as far as therapy goes. I'm a part of that. So I'm just telling y'all, like, we're all doing the work. Like, the people on this panel, like, I'm just appreciative of the work that you've done, right? And so even with Brittany being here, thank God, because everywhere I go in the community, the ratio is 3 to 1. Our queens have been superior since day one. Be clear. But out here in the community, it's like, we need to be able to do more to uplift and help. But I don't even know if men actually know what that looks like. How do we protect our women? How do we actually uplift and support our women if we've never even done that for ourselves in that capacity, right? So it's important, you know. But that first session was, to answer the question, was not the one for me. And I did not know how to express what I was feeling. So it made it even harder. I felt so much pressure. If I don't say the right thing, she's not gonna understand what I'm going through. And that was a lot of pressure.
So for me, there was never a stigma behind a therapist, fortunately. So I was a very misunderstood child. At the age of 6, I was sexually assaulted by a family member, but I held on to that secret until I think I was 22. And the only reason why I was able to actually come out and tell my mother what I had been going through or what I had been suffering with for so long was because I had gotten out of an emotionally abusive relationship, a 7-year relationship. I got with who is now my husband. He made me feel safe enough to actually start talking about that. And then the night terrors came. So that is what pushed me to share my truth with my family. From there, let me back up. Because I was misunderstood and troubled as a child, my mother did try to put me in therapy. I was not taught. I wasn't budging because I knew if this secret got out, it's not going to be good with the two kind of families that I had. So I held on to that. Through sharing my truth, I started therapy with the YWCA. My first therapist was a white female. I didn't stay long. I got enough to kind of feel better and kind of go on with my life. I was coming up on graduating with my undergrad. I went on with life. I continued to get my master's. I worked. Then I got pregnant. I had a very traumatic pregnancy. And after having my baby, then me and my boyfriend at the time started having troubles in our relationship. So I'm like, okay, we're going to therapy. We got to get this right. We got a baby now. He was like, I'm not going to therapy. So I went by myself. It was pretty easy for me to open up a therapy. The second therapist I had was a black male because I was trying to find something that my boyfriend at the time would feel comfortable with going. Through there, I learned I had enmeshed relationships with my mother, with all my family members. I really learned about myself, but I didn't stay long. I got enough to kind of say, okay, well, let me keep going. Then COVID happened. So I got burnt out at work. Then I'm like, okay, well, let me find another therapist. Third therapist, black female. She was working on her license, and I was working on my license.
I went for maybe about 3 or 4 months, and I had to know myself that she's not equipped to take on what I'm about to pour on her. Just because I had the background myself. So I left her, and I found my therapist. So on the 4th time I did find my therapist, I've been working with her, I want to say since the summer of last year, every week. Up until maybe about 2 months ago, I just started going bi-weekly, and now I think I'm actually healthy enough to say, okay, well maybe once a week is good, just because I'm trying to find other ways to get healthy. You can't heal your mind, your body, and your soul in just with one person. So yeah, there was never a stigma, but the opening up part, it didn't come, I think, because I'm a female. Because, you know, when you're amongst your friends, you talk about, girl, I'm tired, or I'm depressed, or I'm having suicidal ideation, because those are the type of things that me and my friends talk about. So yeah.
There was not a stigma against therapy for me. I believe that when you grow up and you go through things as similar to sexual assault, because I was sexually assaulted too when I was younger. I think I was around 13. And my mother put me into therapy right away. So I feel like that did affect how I remember things, how I was able to go on and move forward. But when you go through things as a child and you have to grow up so early, or you have enmeshment relationships with a parent, and that basically means there's no boundaries with a parent. So you get very used to speaking openly about the things that are going on with you. And when you have traumatic things happen to you or your friends or family, you can see people where they are. And you can, I feel like that's why I ended up going to therapy recently, is because I could see everybody in their traumatic state and I could not ignore it. Like, you know, forget staying offline, like that's mandatory, like even one-to-one interactions with people. So waking up every morning knowing that I love people, I love to take care of people, I have to be better for that. And I've created a space now to give those opportunities to others to find their healing in alternative ways that I can provide. I know that I need to be in a better space to really see and receive people and give them the help that they need, because it's really, really, really important not to do it the right way, but to be very mindful and intentional every day with the people that you're interacting with or the people that you're helping. So I did my first therapy session as an adult. It was probably like 2 years ago. It was a Zoom call. It was a white female who was recommended to me by my friend who's Black. Her and her husband go to her, and they have for years. It was not a good experience. It was a Zoom call, and I dumped and cried and gave my soul, left it there on the browser, and she was like, okay, well, do you want to set another appointment? I was like, I need you to give me something. I literally said, I just poured my heart out to you. Like, I'm not in a good space. Like, I need something. She was like, well, just try not to be stressed and take your time. And I was like, wow, like, this is really rough. So that was probably 2 years ago. But now, like I said, I'm in this space now where I really want to be that source for others, and I have to be in a good space. So I feel like it was harder for me being able to articulate myself. People say I'm very emotionally aware, so I started with a Black female therapist a couple months ago. And we're kind of on the fence right now because I feel like that's taken for granted, that emotional awareness. I can speak about what's going on with me, and I feel like there's not a lot of time that's made for me. Like, I need someone to hold me accountable. Like, I've been able to show up for myself and others through very hectic times my whole life. Like, I need somebody that I can rely on to really teach me something. So, but I was talking to Cam about it, and he said, you know, you have to tell your therapist what you need, you know, in some instances. I felt like, like what? But that's understandable. So the fact that I really care about being better, I'm going to continue on, and I'm not going to stop until I find my right person.
Okay, so I think I just wanted to piggyback off of you. People think a therapist is supposed to tell them the answers. We don't have the answers. You have the answers. We just have the tools to teach you in order to give the answers. That's all I wanted to add.
Really?
They'll tell you that too. I asked all
Did y'all have any questions? Did anybody want to add? Okay, well, I want to pause to give everybody a hand really quickly. We're not coming to an end yet. I know we have a few more moments. But it's hard to talk about these things, and it's hard to be amongst the space. Okay, that's what I did. I needed to. We got about 10 minutes left. Okay, anyway, but it's hard. I wanted to make sure that the space was safe and we just secured that safeness with hand claps because it's hard to talk about these things. I hope y'all don't feel like we got all the answers. And I hope you don't feel like we're just talking at you and giving you the answers. This really is a dialogue because we're on that journey, and really all it is we're committed to being on that journey and inviting other people into that space to get the help that they deserve. Did you remember what you were going to add? Okay.
I was just reflecting on a lot of what she said, and you guys are sharing your trauma. We appreciate that. Because as you tell your story, there's somebody out here that resonates with that because your experiences are not alone. And the stats are abysmal about child sexual abuse. It's just, anyway. But I've been in therapy twice. So the second time I was early adulthood with 2 children, a business and a husband. And I wasn't sure how to set boundaries. Because like you said, some of us grow up in homes where the leadership did not have the skills, the tools, or the right information to impart to us. So there's blurred lines all over the place. And so because I had gotten married and started my own family, my immediate family did not really know how to do that. And so there was a lot of codependency there. And the people pleaser that I was, if anybody around me was in crisis, it was my job to fix the crisis. And then I had these little people relying on me, and I'm like, I don't know how to do this, and I'm gonna just burn myself up. So I went to a therapist, and she was a white woman, and she was wonderful, and she said to me, honey, you have to learn where you end and they begin, where your skin ends and where their skin begins. And it didn't, like, I couldn't even understand what she was saying at first. Like, you mean I get to, like, move that scale on the continuum of where I get to be and where they get to be, and that I don't have to go running and saving my mom when she can't get to the grocery store? And I, like, anytime she would say something to me about a need or a complaint, I would automatically fall into that, okay, well, if I do this and don't do this, and do this first, and then go do this, then I'll be able to go over there and help her. Okay, and then I'll have to run around and do that. And it was just too much. It was too much. So it was a wonderful experience the second time around. And I also learned a huge valuable lesson is that soul work is done in solitude. This is what I know to be true. And if somebody out here has something else to say, then share, because maybe I'm wrong. But what I know to be true so far with the birthdays that I've had, even when you have a Sherpa, a guide, whether it's a traditional psychologist, therapist, counselor, coach, life strategist, they're going to give you tools, they're going to give you guidance, they're going to help you learn vocabulary, they're going to help you develop some strengths and some understanding, but maybe that work is your work. They can't do it for you. They can hold your hand while you're doing it and they can guide you, but your soul work is your soul work. Because nobody knows the depths of your pain, your experience, your joy, your passions, your vision, but you. So you gotta be able to sit with yourself and be okay with yourself. And then when you're okay with yourself, as Jasmine said, then you can help somebody else. And your ability to show up for you is directly reflected in how you can show up for somebody else. And that's just, to me, a universal law. And you don't have to go to school for that, but it's helpful, I guess. You finally figure some stuff out. But yeah, so that work it's important to ask for help and support because we all need it. None of us are perfect. None of us have it all figured out. You know, we all have things that we're really, really good at and we don't even have to think about. And then there's other stuff that we really have to be intentional and work at because it's not, you know, our jam, you know, but it still needs to be done. So it's okay to get help with that. But don't expect that person to do it for you because that's a cop-out and that's a cheat.
So, in wrapping up, I know we only have a few minutes left, but I want to ask this one last question to you guys. And one, thank y'all so much for sharing all that you share. I know I'm super impacted by hearing you all's story and just by sharing this space with you all, but most importantly, being able to receive and be on the receiving end because I know you guys know what it's like to always have to put out. And so even being in the space to be able to learn has been so amazing. But I want to ask this one last question, and I'll answer it as well. But I want to ask each of you individually, why? Why mental health? What stigma do you want to break when it comes to mental health? And what do you want to see more of in this space? I can start.
I would say why mental health? Just because I've seen every family member go through on each side of my family, and I don't want to pass it down to the children. And not just my child, but we're in this community to help and uplift and give to those coming up behind us. The stigma that I want to break, specifically for Black women, is you don't have to do it all. And you can say no. It's okay to say no. I don't want to watch your kids, or I don't want to help out, or we're not hanging out at my house this weekend. So that's the stigma that I want to break, is being able to stand on my 2 feet and not feeling bad about not having to do everything for everybody, for your family, and then kind of just focusing on myself.
I'm gonna say the stigma and just being as big of an advocate as I can be in this space, the stigma that I need to break for Black people everywhere is that we deserve the support that we need for mental health. Like equity, affirmative action. I'm talking about it matters. It matters because we are the only race, especially in this country, that has gone through what we've been through. It is not fair, and it's not going to change unless we have allies and advocates and associates and people that are going to understand that what's happening to Black people in America, this shit is not okay. It's not normal, and everybody is a part of this, right? So the thing about it is that the better we are as people within our mental health, it helps everybody. Because be clear, we run this nation. We have built and we have worked, and we have built and we have worked, and we have built and we have worked. But what we have not seen is the opportunity to actually heal. I've done the work, I've traveled, you name it. I went there to Minneapolis and when George Floyd was killed, and they burned that city down to the ground. I was there in Louisville, and what they did to Breonna Taylor, and what they have not done to uplift that Black queen. And everywhere we see, and I'm not even gonna get started on Virginia, but there's a huge, huge, huge need for healing right here in Hampton Roads. It has to happen because this is toxic blood. It's lethal. It's not even toxic anymore. People are dying because of the work that we have not been able to do, that we have not been able to sustain. People are dying because of the healing that we have not been able to receive. People are dying because of the cycles that have been created because people were never given the opportunity to heal. And it has to change. That's a stigma that we're going to continue to fight. And even standing here, I continue every day to go into the community to fight against things that I'm still healing from. I'm constantly triggered. I'm constantly going to vigils. I'm constantly going to funerals. I'm constantly getting phone calls from people that have experienced some of the things that I'm still fighting against. But I keep showing up. It's therapeutic for me, and it also brings the representation that I just spoke about. If we keep showing up in these spaces, Whether it's on a Sunday in Southern Market, or at the General Assembly in Richmond, or at the White House in DC, it don't end here. We're doing our work to heal so that we can fight again tomorrow. That's where I'm at with it. And that's where I'll continue to go. Because mental health, there's a space for this, and we need it. We deserve it. We deserve to heal. And I want everybody to continue to fight in that regard. But I'm just super happy and proud of everybody that came here today to fight a stigma. Because coming out and being anywhere around mental health ain't cool. And so we made it cool. Everybody that came here today made this an impact. Everybody that came here today created this vibration and this energy and this synergy. And this collective mindset and the collective consciousness, that's all a part of our mental health. So I just want to thank y'all for pouring into me today so I can continue to pour into my community.
Why mental health? Nothing else matters. We are the only ones living our life every day. We can be great at our job, we can hit all the numbers, it's still not going to be enough. We can have money in the bank, we can still be very broken and not feel fulfilled. Nothing is going to feel good about where you are in your life, who you are, or at least working towards it every day. We're not putting time and energy into that. Nothing else matters. That is why I feel like this is what my life, this is what I'm dedicated to. Healing myself and healing others and showing people it can happen for you. Whether you have insurance or not, there's so many resources and just being open to that. And the stigma I like to break is not being real.
Come on.
Not being real. The shit is not cute. Cry in public, on Instagram. Talk about what you really got going on, because instantly, if you are willing to be that vulnerable, the walls come down in every relationship that you have, even the job. I'm a salesperson. I sell clothes. So I'm picking up the phone, making cold calls, talking to people. I realized very quickly that people just want to feel like you care. They know why you're calling. They're calling because you're selling them something. But they want to feel seen and they want to feel heard. And once you just bring yourself down to that level, I mean, the doors open up for you. All of that tension that we create and the relationships that we have, or interactions we have between people, if we're just vulnerable about how we're feeling, instead of just saying good, instead of saying, no, it took me so much to get out of bed today. There's so much strength in our vulnerability, and people will respect that shit.
Yeah.
They really, really, really will.
Absolutely. Come on, sis.
So, mental health matters because that's all there is. It's to live this life the most authentic way possible. We deserve that freedom. And the stigma, just be real. Be honest about what you got going on. If you care about yourself healing and getting it out, know that there's somebody else who can gain something. If you guys gained anything from anything that we said today, challenge yourself. When you see somebody, you feel a need to say something or want to just say it. It's real. Our intuition is real.
So I already did my, soapbox speech about psychological health and well-being, so I won't repeat that. But my brand, the mission of my brand, personal philosophy and professional philosophy is to empower, inspire, and encourage. And so that empowerment starts with education and knowledge and awareness. So to bring this kind of information out in public, and so people understand what it is and what it's not, so then you can have agency and make decisions for yourself. So you don't have to feel like, oh, what happens in this house stays in this house. Or you have to feel like you gotta hide under the bed because you're having a bad day, or because your child's acting out, or because somebody in your family, you have inherited something from your family, schizophrenia or whatever it is. Like, you still have a life to live. And there's a way to live it and to live well, but you need support. You need to understand what you're working with and how you got to that place, and what is going to be useful and helpful to get you moving forward, and what is not necessarily so helpful and useful. So that's why I decided psychology. My undergrad is in biology and my master's is in psychology, and probably my PhD will be about the brain, because that's how we live through the world. So my whole mission is just to help people understand when you're empowered Nobody can keep you down. When you claim back your power, when you take your power back, you have your agency. And then we can work on diversity, inclusion, equity, and belonging. Because nobody else has to give it to you. You already have it.
Yeah, good.
When you guys get all of these panels, yeah, give each other. Y'all, this has been so good. In wrapping up, I just want to say what I care about, really. I care about spaces like these, and I care about creating space for, like you said, the young people. I always remember being young and looking for myself in people, and I saw that it was easy to get a career and become all of these great things, but I saw that it was really hard to attain happiness and healthiness. And so while everyone was deciding who they would become when they grew up, I decided that I wanted to be happy. Because that was hard to be. And so I subscribe to Black Boy Joy, and the stigma that I want to break is that Black men are dynamic. We can be anything we want to be, okay? We can experience joy, we can experience anger, we can experience all the things and it be normal. And so that's it. Again, another hand for everybody up here. If you could give a hand to Sheldon Market for helping provide the space. I also want to give a hand to Everyday Dope Life who helped put this together, as well as Tidewater Waves. That's Drew right there. He's Tidewater Waves. He likes to keep it low key, but again, whenever you're in the space that I'm in, I'm always going to highlight my people, and I'm always going to highlight everything that they're doing. So y'all get to know these panelists, follow them on Instagram. I'll be in their DMs for sure. Last thing but not least, I noticed that these were on the table. It was like heal before you hustle. I was like, yo, that's you. So I wanted to thank her for these books. And can you talk to us really quickly about that?
Yeah, so I just gave you blank journals. A lot of clients that I've had in the past and just people that I run into in general, they always ask, like, what do I journal about? How do I start journaling? Just write your thoughts down. Get them out your head so that you're not cycling these thoughts all day. If it's a list of things that you need to do, write it down. If it's a business plan, write it down. If it's a dream, write it down. If it's a fear, write it down. If it's something that's just eating you up from the past, write it down. Get it out your head so that way you can just have a clear mind to be able to go back to whether it's later that day or some months down the line and kind of engage how you grew as a person or what you got during that time from when you wrote it down until you kind of go back. So just write it down.
I would encourage you all and invite you all over to Free Reign Studios. We're right across the street, across Plume at 4:30. We're gonna have a yoga and flow session. It's donation-based entry. I could definitely use, some movement after this deep conversation. So get some sun, get some air, and can y'all take down my number? Pull out your phone real quick. We're right at the expansive building across the way. You just go up these stairs here. 757-450-7640. We will have an instructor. We can chill, mixer vibe, wind down. The building is called Expansive. It might come up in your phone as novel. It's right up these stairs here across from Legacy. It's a new nightclub that opened.
Oh, okay.
Right up those stairs. Just give me a call. 4:30.
Okay, everybody stand up. This is what we're going to do to close this out real quickly. We're going to do some more affirmations. And then, Drew, did you need me to hand it back to you when we're done? Okay, cool. I am healthy. I am whole. I am successful. Y'all tired. I'm sorry. Yeah, exactly. You got to get some moving. I am happy. I am healthy. I am whole. I am bold. I am successful. I am loving. I am caring. I care about myself. I care about other people. I have a job to get done. But most of all, the job that I need to do is take care I love y'all. Thank y'all so much. Give yourselves a hand. We love you. We love you. I love y'all. And Shannon, thank you for all your training and pass the energy that we have, like she said, to other people. We will see y'all out in the field. Peace.
You travel? Okay. You have your own practice or what? Nice. What's it called? It's a catch too, right? Because oh, that's a good one. I know, right? I should get that.
It's very close.